Hi, my name's Quinton. I run an online charity called Knife Crime Victim Support and MAP Workshops, which is music, mentoring and poetry. When I'm working in an environment with vulnerable youngsters and at-risk youngsters, just because I've come from a disaffected background, or I've come from a complex childhood or a difficult childhood, and because I can relate, that's not necessarily to say that there's professionals out there that they know their stuff. They know their stuff. I'm not trying to, kind of replace that. It's a kind of faceted approach, and I've been involved and worked with organisations, in fact, that they've got ex-gang members, they've got therapists, they've got youth workers, and also with the police as well, with Dowline, for example, with his navigators, and so he's got enforcement officers, and then if you want to work with the navigators, you can work with the navigators. If you don't want to work with the navigators, you're going to see the enforcement officers. So I think there's kind of more options and more of a chance to show that you're willing to change, because it is about a motivation to change. Often, if there's not a motivation to change, it's an uphill struggle straight away. Not to say that it's not to say that it's not going to work, but we need to see a motivation to change, and we need to see a willingness to engage. And once we see that, that youngster's reality and trajectory can be amazing, can be powerful, and we see that every day. And I just hope that lots of people who might be watching this can say, well, hold on a minute, how can I help? Lots of people ask, how can I help? So if you're a photographer, or if you're a producer, if you're an artist, I think art and the creative arts can really help, because we know, everybody watching this knows, that youngsters are into music. Music is a universal language, and it's a great way of communicating and kind of encouraging youngsters to kind of replace the feel-good factor that they're getting at the moment. Because if gangs are exploiting youngsters that have been excluded, for example, because they're gravitating towards gangs, because if you're marginalised and criminalised and you're on the edge of society and we all need a social identity, and that often comes from our family, or it comes from a football team, or it comes from a sports club, or it comes from like boxing, or we have groups that we gravitate towards, and that is our social identity. And if in your reality you haven't got anywhere where you can gravitate towards, that is where the gangs are exploiting that kind of area. There's an in-group and then there's an out-group. Once you identify yourself as part of the in-group, then you gain a social significance, and you gain status, and you find self-esteem. So what lots of youngsters are doing at the minute, and the reason why they're joining gangs, is because they're finding those feel-good factors. So we've got to use music, we've got to use creative arts, as well as everything else that anybody can offer as a professional or otherwise, in order to replace the feel-good factor that everyone needs a kind of a buzz, or a hit of kind of dopamine from somewhere. And so we need to replace that, because if we can't replace that, then that's where the gangs will exploit that.